I'm on an aviation tour of the UK and Ireland.
I'll be flying the flag carriers of each to sample the domestic and regional services. I'll be flying economy.
Okay, so that's a takeoff from Belfast.
And business. From city centre airports to beach airports. Airports in major cities to airports in Hebridean Islands. And using the brilliance of aviation, I'll be stopping off to break up my journey, visiting Titanic and the Manchester Visitors Park at Manchester Airport. Welcome to Check-in Aviation. In part 1, we flew from London City Airport to Belfast City Airport in BA City Flyer and the Embraer E190 in economy. We stopped off to visit the Titanic Museum close to Belfast City Airport. We took in the exhibition and all its interactive displays before heading back to Belfast City Airport to take our next flight. Today's first flight will be with British Airways on their A320neo in business class back to London Heathrow. We'll get a short time in the lounge before heading north with British Airways again in business class on their A319. But first, let's get back to Belfast City Airport. We're going to head into the Aspire Lounge to wait for our flight. Belfast City Airport had its busiest year last year with 6.5 million passengers in the one terminal airport. Once airside, you'll see great views of the apron and the variation of aircraft from ATRs to A320s and 737s. Once in the main terminal, you move left to the Aspire Lounge. The lounge was very quiet on the day I visited. I was literally the only person in that half of the lounge. It has great views of the apron and the hours just fly by.
Now, looking on flight radar 24, our aircraft has just left Heathrow. It's a 3-year-old Airbus A320neo. We'll have business class service, block middle seat, in-flight service, and we'll take a look and see just how good British Airways are.
Pretty soon, and by a complete chance, our aircraft arrived and stopped on the stand right next to where I was sitting. I had a great view of the inbound aircraft, the 3-year-old A320neo, and all the ground services team got to work on turning this aircraft around ready for the flight back to London Heathrow. Today's aircraft is registration Golf Tango Tango November Oscar. Eventually boarding was called and the aircraft gate had a exit in the lounge, so we didn't need to go back into the main terminal. We walked down to the aircraft and we were greeted by the cabin crew onto the aircraft, and the interior of the aircraft was spotless. Very, very lovely upholstered seats and very clean and tidy. I took my seat for this flight back to London Heathrow. Pretty soon boarding was complete and we began our pushback and taxi down to the runway for takeoff. You may have noticed on boarding that the middle seat on this flight wasn't blocked with a tray as standard. Instead it was just left empty, and the passenger in the seat the other side of the blocked seat and I just stored our jackets there for the duration of the flight. Our departure today will be from runway 22. Straight after takeoff, the dinner service commenced. There wasn't much to choose from on this flight. There was two choices, but I went for the salad here, and it was very nice indeed. The cabin crew addressed me by name, and it was a very, very nice experience. There wasn't much to see out the window. It's obviously pretty dark. I spent the majority of the flight speaking to a retired major in the seat in my row, and before I knew it, we were landing into a very wet and windy London Heathrow. Little did I know that there was an IT failure that evening, and we spent 40 minutes sitting on the apron, which ate into my lounge time significantly. And that IT failure would come back to haunt me for my next flight too. Little did I know that that would cause a problem for me further down the line in Manchester. This was actually a lovely flight. I enjoyed it very much, and it was over all too quickly. But when we eventually exited the aircraft, there was just enough time to visit the lounge in the Terminal 5 main concourse in the North Lounge, and I grabbed myself a chicken curry and done some plane spotting, preparing myself for the next flight to Manchester. So here we are at London Heathrow, an hour on the runway because of an IT failure, but we're here, we're in the Galleries Lounge. I've just had some chicken rice, very nice. We've got a flight to Manchester now, an hour and 5 minutes, 6 to 10 flights a day. So it's a very popular route, and let's see what this has to offer. I made my way to gate A11 in Terminal 5 for tonight's flight on a British Airways A319 to Manchester. I will make sure I was the first to get in the queue and board this aircraft, and eventually once boarding commenced we made our way down the gateway to the aircraft. Very clean modern aircraft again, lovely greeting on board by the crew, and yet again I enjoyed this flight very much. Hello there, alright. I'm pleased to say that tonight's aircraft did have the middle seat with the tray table blocking it and allowing you to actually use it to make it usable for you. Once boarding was complete, we still ended up sitting on the runway for 15 minutes or so beyond our departure time due to the IT failures in Heathrow. Actually with BA that evening, and the menu cards were brought round for us to choose our dinner prior to takeoff. On this flight I'd go for the roast chicken, pancetta and lettuce with the chocolate mousse and a couple of bottles of wine. It was our turn to push back eventually, and we made the short taxi down to 09 right for a departure out to the east. pretty soon it was time to start our descent into Manchester. The IT failure early on in the day had caused havoc across the BA system, and the BA aircraft were unable to leave Manchester earlier that day. They were still at the gate and the airport was short of ground staff, so we sat on the apron in the aircraft for 40 minutes or so in the snow, watching it fall down outside, getting heavier and heavier. Eventually the aircraft were departing and going back to Heathrow and other bases, and we were allowed off the aircraft into the terminal. Very tired me made my way out of the terminal and into my hotel, rounding up journey on the way out. So finally into Manchester. Sat on the plane for as long as a flight, an hour. And so here we are. We've made it to Manchester. We've travelled from Belfast to London Heathrow and here to Manchester in the luxury of business class. We've eaten lovely food. We've had lovely comfort, but with sleet and snow outside and many legs on this trip to go, will we make it to Scotland? Will we make it to our final destination? You will have to join me in the next episode, but for now, I've been up since 4:30. It's 10 o'clock at night now. I'm going to bed. See you on the next episode.